Okay, let's unpack this.
Let's do it.
We are opening up a text that is, I mean, it's one of the most profoundly influential of the 20th century. A book that really changes how you view suffering, meaning, survival,
Everything.
everything. We're talking about Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning.
It's just an extraordinary piece of work. And, the original German title was even starker.
Although,
Yeah, it was From Death Camp to Existentialism. That title is the whole thesis right there in miniature.
it tells you everything, doesn't it? It grounds the entire philosophical theory, what he called logotherapy, in the most horrific crucible imaginable.
Exactly.
So our mission today, with the excerpts we have, is to go beyond just the story and really extract his core discovery. We need to get at the mechanism of how suffering, even the absolute worst, can be given meaning.
And how it can be transformed into a human achievement.
Right.
And Frankl himself was so adamant that you could never separate the two halves of the book. The harrowing part one, the autobiography. That is the indispensable, terrifying evidence for part two.
It validates the theory.
It proves that life holds potential meaning under any conditions, no matter how miserable.
And what's so fascinating is this idea he introduces right away, this concept that even when everything is stripped from you, something is left.
But the last of the human freedoms. I mean, just think about it. You're reduced to a number. You lose your name, your family, your clothes, even your hair. Every single thing that connects you to your identity is gone.
Nothing is left.
But Frankl saw, and he lived, the fact that the prisoner was still left with one final choice.
The choice to decide your attitude.
To choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances. That inner choice, that spiritual freedom, that was everything.
It's a concept that sounds so simple, right? But when you place it in the reality of the camps, it's almost impossibly difficult to imagine.
Which is why we have to start where Frankl starts, with the psychology of the inmate. He detailed three very distinct phases, starting with shock.
The shock upon admission. And the sources, they paint such a vivid picture of this, especially that moment of arrival, the selection process.
He calls it the finger game. Chilling.
A single gesture from an SS officer.
Left or right. And that one movement determined if you went to the work detail or straight to the gas chambers. He even talks about trying to stand up straight, look healthy, look useful.
Even in that moment of terror, making a choice.
A choice under the most extreme pressure imaginable.
And on top of that shock, there was this other psychological layer. This, what do you call the illusion of reprieve?
Yes, because the mind just can't accept total annihilation all at once. It's too much.
So it protects itself.
It clings to these tiny shreds of hope. Maybe this transfer is just to a rest camp. Maybe that building really is just a shower. It was a kind of necessary denial.
Until it wasn't possible to deny it anymore.
Until the truth became absolutely inescapable. And that loss of hope, that's when the shock phase ends and the most dangerous state begins. Apathy.
Okay, so let's dig into this, because apathy, for Frankl, it wasn't just, mental exhaustion. He saw it as a necessary self-defense.
That is the core difference. A simple breakdown is a failure to cope. Apathy in the camp was a tool for survival.
It was a blunting of emotion.
An emotional blunting that was, in a way, deliberately cultivated. You couldn't afford to feel pity or horror or grief for others. All your energy, every single ounce of it, had to be focused on one thing.
Staying alive for one more day.
Just one more day.
And the sources really show this descent into a primitive state. Frankl notes that the prisoners, they didn't dream of freedom or their families. Their dreams were about food, bread, cigarettes, a warm bath.
It's a tragic illustration of, Maslow's hierarchy in reverse. Everything spiritual or cultural just gets stripped away by the raw physiological need. Frankl called the result barbed wire sickness.
And this is made worse by the capos, right? The prisoners who were put in charge.
Yes. The capos were often the ultimate symbol of this ethical collapse. Prisoners who became crueler than the guards just to ensure their own miserable survival.
So if almost all of your being is focused on just keeping the body alive, where does that last human freedom, that spiritual choice, actually happen?
It happens in this incredible paradox. As the physical and outer life got smaller and smaller, for some, the inner spiritual life became more intense.
The retreat into the inner life.
Yes, you could be standing in mud and filth, surrounded by death, and you could look up and see a sunset over the Bavarian mountains and be moved to tears by its beauty.
He talks about holding the image of his wife in his mind. It sounds like a lovely memory to escape into.
But it was so much more than an escape. This is the moment, I think, where logotherapy is truly born.
How so?
As he's holding this image of his wife, he has this realization. It doesn't even matter if she's alive or dead. What matters is the love itself. In that moment, his spirit was able to transcend the horror around him.
So love is the goal.
He says it's the ultimate and the highest goal to which man can aspire. Because in that contemplation, even a man who has nothing left can find salvation.
That's the evidence. The fact that your attitude toward your suffering is a choice.
That's the indispensable proof.
And that observation, that powerful insight, it moves us directly into his therapy, logotherapy.
Therapy through meaning.
It's called the Third Viennese School of Psychotherapy, which is a big deal. You have Freud with his will to pleasure.
And Alfred Adler with the will to power.
And then Frankl comes along with something completely different.
He shifts the entire focus. I mean, think about it. Freudian psychoanalysis looks backward, right? To the past, to your trauma. Logotherapy is future focused.
It looks forward.
It centers on the meaning that is waiting for you to fulfill it. His core assertion, based on everything he saw, is that our primary drive isn't pleasure or power. It's the will to meaning.
So what happens when that will is frustrated? When someone is just stuck feeling like there is no meaning?
Well, that's what leads to what he calls neurogenic neuroses.
Neurogenic. Can you break that down?
Sure. Nous is the Greek word for mind, but more specifically for the spirit, the human spirit. So a neurogenic neurosis isn't your typical emotional problem. It's a crisis of the spirit. It's existential frustration.
It's not that you're sick, it's that your purpose compass is broken.
That's a great way to put it. And the philosophical tool he used to fix that compass, even in the camps, comes from Nietzsche.
The famous quote.
He who has a why to live can bear almost anyhow.
That must have been a lifeline in the camps. He actually used this to pull people back from the brink, didn't he? From what they call running into the wire.
He did. He used that quote like a surgeon's scalpel. When a man was suicidal, Frankl wouldn't try to give him empty platitudes. He'd force him to look forward.
To find a why.
To find a task only he could finish. A child waiting for him. A book he needed to write. He didn't diminish the suffering. He reframed it as a call to action.
There's a fantastic clinical example of this in the sources, with a patient of his after the war, an elderly man who was deeply depressed after his wife died.
Right, a classic case. The man was inconsolable. His life was meaningless without her.
And Frankl doesn't do typical grief counseling. He asks him this incredible question.
A radical hypothetical. He says, "What would have happened, sir, if you had died first?"
And the man, of course, says his wife would have been devastated. She would have suffered terribly.
And that's the pivot. That is the breakthrough. Frankl points out that by surviving her, the man has spared her all of that suffering.
So his pain has a purpose.
His pain is a sacrifice. His grief is the price he pays to have protected the woman he loved. It's an achievement.
It's an incredible reframing. It takes this passive, crushing tragedy and makes it active, honorable.
He accepted his suffering as an achievement, and the depression lifted. That right there is the core mechanism of logotherapy.
Which brings us to the bigger picture. Because Frankl wasn't just diagnosing prisoners, he was diagnosing the entire 20th century with this existential vacuum.
Absolutely. The existential vacuum is what happens when we lose the traditions and the instincts that used to guide us, that used to tell us what to do.
We're left in a void.
And modern people often don't know what they should do, or even what they really wish to do.
The statistics he cites are pretty shocking. Something like 25% of his European students and a huge number, maybe 60% of his American students, said they felt this vacuum.
And the symptoms are all around us, even today. He said it often manifests as just profound boredom.
Which people then try to fill.
With aggression, with addiction, with consumerism, anything to fill that inner void.
So the meaning of life isn't some big, abstract, philosophical question.
No, not at all. It's utterly unique. It's different for every single person, and it changes day to day, even hour to hour. He says we shouldn't ask what we expect from life.
We should ask what life expects from us.
Exactly. Life is challenging us every moment, and we have to respond.
Okay, so if life is constantly asking us these questions, what are the practical ways logotherapy says we can find the answers? He lays out 3 pathways.
He does. 3 primary ways to discover meaning. The first one is the most straightforward. Creating a work or doing a deed.
Achievement. Contribution.
You write a book, you build a business, you raise a family, you put something valuable out into the world.
That makes sense. What's the second way?
The second is through experiencing something or encountering someone. This could be experiencing beauty, like that sunset in the camp, but most importantly, encountering another person through love.
He comes back to love.
He always does. He says it's the only way to truly grasp the innermost core of another human being.
And the final path, the most difficult one, it brings us right back to the camp.
It does. The third way is the attitude we take toward unavoidable suffering. When you're facing something you cannot change, an illness, a loss, you are no longer challenged to change the situation.
You're challenged to change yourself.
Yes, and it's in that inner transformation that human dignity is preserved at its highest level.
So really, human existence, for Frankl, it all boils down to responsibility?
Total responsibility.
Yeah.
To hammer this home, he creates his own version of a categorical imperative. It's a kind of ethical rule.
What is it?
He says, live as if you were living already for the second time, and as if you had acted the first time as wrong as you're about to act now.
Wow. That's a staggering thought experiment.
It is. It forces you to confront the finality, the finiteness of your life, and the immense weight of your choices.
It makes you take this present moment seriously.
Incredibly seriously, because you're acting with the full knowledge of what it feels like to have gotten it wrong.
So after this whole deep dive, what does this all mean for us, for you listening right now? Frankl's entire journey, it seems to show that even when everything is gone, that one thing remains.
Your ability to choose your inner attitude, your spiritual freedom.
And that freedom is what determines if you're worthy of your suffering.
And whether you can turn that suffering from a tragedy into an inner triumph. It's the highest form of self-transcendence.
So we stop asking, why is this happening to me?
And we start asking, what is life asking of me right now?
That's a huge shift.
It is, and it leads to this final, really beautiful thought he leaves us with. He says, logotherapy isn't pessimistic about life being temporary. It's activistic.
Activistic.
Yes, because while life is fleeting, everything we achieve, every choice we make, every person we love, all of that is saved. It's delivered safely into the past where it's stored forever.
So the past isn't lost. It's preserved.
It's preserved, safe from being transitory. The potential might be fleeting, but the reality of having been is eternal.
He says everything hinges on realizing those transitory possibilities.
It does. So the final thought for you to consider is this. If your life is finite and the goal is to fill the granaries of the past with meaning, what choice or what achievement are you making right now that will be stored there forever? That's the challenge.